Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 183. And it is about what happens if the trolls find you. A little bit of housekeeping first. As you know, it is now Wednesday, April 29th, 2026, which means Woo Corner is just around the corner, I guess. So, if you have not yet got yourself onto the mailing list to get Woo Corner and you have no idea what I'm talking about, the link is in the show notes, and I am confident you will not regret it. Look for that by the end of the week. Also, how do I sound? You like this? I'm not using my cute little mini mic anymore because my new one came in, and I'm a big girl now, apparently, because I'm using something called a compressor mic. What's the difference? Don't ask me. I had it explained to me by an expert, and what that left me feeling was, man, I'm really glad that I'm not an audio engineer. It seems like everything would get on my nerves because I would have expertise in how things should sound, which means that most things wouldn't be up to my standard. Oh, it sounds real frustrating. So for those of you, well, if you're an audio engineer, you probably haven't been able to stand listening to my podcast because of all the plosives and using that cute little mini mic didn't help matters. But I don't need to be an expert to know the very basics, which is what I was sort of refusing to learn before. And now I know some extremely basic things, and I hope that this sounds nice. That's all I really care about. Does it sound nice? Can you hear me? Do you have to continually turn your volume up because I have no treble in my voice? If you have the opinions, you know I want to hear them. If not, just listen on and enjoy yourselves. So the reason that I chose today's subject is that it kind of chose me. I have a very dear alumni, student, and friend, Alma, who I met at the Irish Aerial Dance Festival a couple of years ago, and I have since gotten to mentor her in the Audacity project and work with her during the festival in classes and in group hoop, and she's just very innovative, and only a couple of years into her journey, she and Tasneem, another artist named Tasneem, made a duo show that was like extraordinary, and I got to see that at the IDF on Ingrin's stage. If you can't tell by the sound of my voice, I am extremely proud of Alma, and I love watching what she does. Truly, she has so much vision. Well, the trolls done found my baby. And that is what it felt like. Not that I'm not trying to claim parentage over her or anything creepy like that. But when you've been in these intimate places with someone and you're making art together, and then you see people online saying horrible things to them, the red mist was real. And I'm not naive. I know what trolls are. I've been on the internet. But apparently, I am quite charmed. I have a little bubble of people online, and I don't have a very wide audience, but they are deep. And for some reason, I'm just surrounded by really awesome people. I've had very, very few ugly comments hurled at me over the years. And so, let me back up. Alma put up a clip from one of her latest performances, and somehow the trolls found it. And spoiler alert, not only is Alma's work visionary and innovative, which means it's not going to be for everybody. And it requires things of you to be in the room. But the thing that the internet really didn't seem to like was that Alma has body hair. Well, grab your pitchforks because it was off to the races. And even though I'm not naive, and even though I know that these things exist, like seeing them happen to Alma broke my fucking heart. I was surprised at the severity of my reaction. I always knew I would be bummed, but it was like heartbreaking. And so I decided we needed to talk about this on the podcast today, particularly like what helps if the trolls find you. What do you do? If the trolls find someone that you care about, what would be helpful? What would make it worse? So I chatted with Alma about it, and I also talked to another friend. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that friend and her advice later on. But for now, I just want to focus on Alma's situation. And yes, of course, I sent Alma messages. I got her permission. She's happy for what she has experienced to help other people. So firstly, I think just like a tiny bit of background just to describe the situation. This was a reel from a performance of Alma's, and she's like sitting in a harness. There's a choir singing behind her. I can, she gave me permission to link to the video itself, so I can show it to you. And, the trolls found it. And yes, it had some unusual movement in it. And yes, Alma has body hair. How dare she? Isn't it, caveat, all right. Isn't it interesting that to be gender non-conforming as an AFAB femme woman, all you have to do is like not do things. If you don't wear makeup and you don't remove your body hair, well, suddenly you're not conforming. This is fucked. But anyway, I digress. And they came out in droves. And what I learned from Alma, because there was just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And what I learned from Alma was that the demographic was very male and very American. Not only male. I saw a few myself that were just women raking her over the coals. And the way that I learned about this situation was that Alma posted a story like the day after saying getting 500 plus hate comments on my latest reel was not on my 2026 bingo card, but here we are. Thank you to everyone who has been lovely. And I went and looked, and there was 280,000 views on her latest reel. And yes, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of disgusting commentary. So right away, as I got the scope of the situation, I thought to myself, if this were me, what would I want? And I sent her a private message on a thread that we use together. And then I made a public comment. I didn't respond to the trolls. I think we've all learned, never feed the trolls. That what they want is your engagement. Or what? I don't fucking know who cares what they want. But anyway, engaging with them is not a great way to improve the situation. So I didn't. But I knew if it were me, I would have wanted those who support my work and enjoy my work and like what I do and support me to be vocal publicly about that support. So that's what I did to Alma. And she and I have chatted about it, and she said that was really helpful. So as far as like what is helpful, if the trolls find someone that you care about, voice your care. Privately, publicly, just be as loud as you can be. Because there's a huge volume spike and awful things being said to this person. So we also need to be loud in those times. She said private messages also really helped, and that she got really, really lovely comments and messages and encouragement from people that she didn't know. And because the viewership on her reel skyrocketed so much, lots of people who enjoyed her work found her work. And she declared to me she was glad that it happened in the end. She's like, this was a good exercise. And she said that even though the reaction wasn't what she intended, she was glad that her work evoked a strong reaction. Wow, how fucking classy is that? And as well, like, if this happens to you, you have like lots of raw fodder to use for future artwork. Manflesh was helpful to me because I had kind of a spiral about this before it had taken a turn for the better for Alma. And I was just confiding in him, like, people don't deserve the internet. They just don't. I don't understand what people are getting out of this. And why are there so many of them? Is this most people? Is this how most people are? Is this how most people think? And I've just been like sheltered in my lovely witchy artist empath bubble. And his take on that was that no, this isn't most people. It's just that these people are really, really loud. And it makes it seem like they're most people, but not to tell ourselves the story that like this is the majority of human beings. Now, the thing about this situation that made it, I think maybe a little bit easier to deal with is that there was no chance of this being useful critique, right? And there was from a friend of Alma's that spoke up and was like, you know, you're a real artist when like people are hating all over your art videos. And I'm like, lovely thing to say, right? And of course, here come the trolls. And they're like, just because people don't like your work doesn't mean that it's hate. That is true, but this was hate. Like, come on now. You do not get to behave like an asshole and hide behind your right to, quote unquote, free speech. Like, is that even a thing anymore? But anyway, you don't get to say whatever you want and be an asshole and then claim that there's nothing wrong with it because you were just giving critique. Like, no, you weren't. You were being an asshole. And as far as like anyone who's listening to this who thinks, well, when people hate my work, I should listen to them because everyone's entitled to their opinion. They can still have their opinion whether or not you listen to it. Like, you're not taking that away from them. It doesn't deserve to be weighed the same as your opinion. And I will repeat something that I have said before and will say again, never take a note from someone who doesn't like your work. If they don't like it, that's great. It's not for them. Bye. But if they don't like your work, they're never going to like your work, which means their critique is going to try to change and shift your work into something more palatable for them, which is not the point of artistic critique. But regardless, like, none of this was artistic critique. It was just, anyway, it was bullshit. So those are the things that Alma said helped. Messages of support, both private and public. And it was also extremely helpful when she turned off the ability to comment on the post if you didn't follow her. And she says she wished she had done that sooner. She waited a couple of days to do that because she felt like, democratically, everyone is allowed to say what they want. And then she's like, you know what, fuck this. And I agree with her. I would have done that a lot sooner, if I'm honest, regardless of what that says about me. So the last thing that she told me was really helpful was that she posted a story about it. And that's how I found out about it, saying, well, this wasn't on my bingo card. And what that did was it interrupted the isolation, and she was becoming very isolated and just like living this horrible experience by herself. But as soon as she spoke about it, all her people flocked to her side. So she named that as something that was extremely helpful, was just not to go through it alone. So that's 3 things. It's public and private support from people that are loved, turning off the comments for anyone who doesn't follow you, and not going through it alone. So like posting about it, reaching out, sharing the situation, sharing how you feel about it with your friends and with your people, all helpful. And I'm assuming here, I did ask Alma just to make sure, and she's like, yes, of course. So that is to make sure none of you have like social media notifications on your phones, right? Like if I like something of yours on Instagram, you don't get a ping, do you? Tell me that none of you are doing that. That's the path to madness. And when I asked Alma, I'm like, just to be sure, like you don't have your notifications on. She's like, no, I turned those off years ago during my TAP cycle, the Audacity project cycle. I'm like, okay, good. Just as a little caveat there, we do not need social media notifications we don't even need notifications on our phone. Check your messages when you check your messages. But I know there's caveats to that if you have kids. Personally, my phone has been on silent for over a decade. Now, I did want to bring up, I asked for a furthering opinion. I have a friend that she's going to remain anonymous, who went through something really painful. It was many years ago now, but it wasn't being found by trolls exactly. It was being sort of ripped to shreds and having her integrity questioned and her character questioned really publicly on social media for something that was not her fault. And I didn't even know about it until a couple of years after the fact. And it blew my mind because like this person is 100% integrity. And it just goes to show you that like how delicious drama is to a lot of folks. But I remembered that she had gone through that, and I wrote to her asking if she wouldn't mind answering the questions. 1, what was helpful? 2, what made it worse? And 3, what would she tell someone in that situation now? And these are the answers that she kindly gave me. 1, what made it better? Nothing. Nothing made it better. It just sucked. Although she did admit that if something were helpful, it was time. It was the passing of time and just having to, like, the only way out is through and just live through it. And, eventually people get bored. They start talking about something else. And then you're able to move on with your life. To the second question, what made it worse? She had 2 answers, one of which was human nature, because it is built into lots of folks that they just, like I said, we love the drama. And if there's tea being spilled, people come to the tea party. So the flames were fanned, in other words. And the other thing that made it worse for my friend was the incessant checking of social media, which obviously would take a gargantuan willpower not to check when people are saying mean things about you in public. It would take someone stronger than me not to go look. But she did admit, that made it worse, is checking a lot. And in answer to the third question of if you had it to do over again, or if you knew someone who was in a similar situation, being spoken about unkindly and being lied about publicly defamed and kind of humiliated, what would you do? And her answer to that was that she would remove her emotional reaction as much as she could and enter lawyer brain, like collect receipts. When there were, this was a real life situation, so people were meeting in rooms to discuss things. And she said she would have, with permission, recorded those conversations so that she would have receipts of them because her words were often taken out of context. Blah, blah, blah. You know how that goes. But she said she would have approached it from an objective viewpoint, collecting data, like to protect herself in case that was necessary. So these two situations that we've talked about today are really different. But also they don't feel different. They feel the same. And that feeling is what it feels like to be rejected, to feel unsafe, to feel like you've been voted off the island in some way. And to close this out, and I hope that this has been helpful for someone, but to close this out, I have the perfect quote, the perfect fucking quote. And I didn't write it. This was said by Dita Von Teese. You can be a juicy, ripe peach, and there will be someone who doesn't like juicy, ripe peaches. Thank you to Alma and my friend, Anonymous. Love you both. Thank you for sharing your stories and letting me share them, and hopefully this has been helpful to someone. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for being just lovely people. Y'all are the best. Thank you. If you have requests for future episodes, I would really love to hear them. You can reach me anytime on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon. So extra special shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for your trust. Thank you for your support. Thank you for standing with me in the fallow periods as well as in the lush summer. Until next time, my friends, you go on with your bad selves and be juicy, ripe peaches. And don't go back to sleep.